But in terms of our quick look back, you probably missed this in the shuffle right now because the most important thing going on is Bob Mueller and his report and all the reporting that's going on about that. And so you could be forgiven for missing the fact that our friends, and we've talked about them before, over at the Southern Poverty Law Center. You remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Southern Poverty Law Center? They're the ones that are like the official group that designates the hate groups for Facebook and Google and everything else. Well, of course, we've told you about these folks and what they're really all about. We've told you that before. But if you check into the news right now, that organization right now, this past couple of weeks, is literally imploding. They've gotten rid of their primary founder, which is Morris Dees, for sexual harassment, by the way, for all you Me Too people out there. Yeah, it's funny how you could be a civil rights attorney and yet be sexually harassing people that you worked with. But apparently that's what's going on. It's been alleged. And obviously Southern Poverty Law Center must have thought there was something to it because they got rid of him. Well, not but about a week later, the gentleman that's essentially the co-founder, Richard Cohen, who's always been one of the executives, as well as their legal counsel, Rhonda Brownstein, they're both out with suggestions of, maybe that they weren't quite completely above board around the SPLC. And what's come out is a lot of the staffers that work there have talked about their experiences. In fact, there's a very interesting article. I think it's in the New Yorker, and it includes some stuff. Certainly, if you're a donor to the Southern Poverty Law Center, you're probably a member of a class who could sue them for fraud and other things because, they've taken all these donations, but apparently they barely spend any money on the actual things that they're taking the donations for.
Right.
Yeah.
What do they spend money on?
Well,
their salaries.
Yeah, salaries. Apparently they do a lot of socializing, including around Montgomery, Alabama, where the organization's located.
Well, Southern Poverty just sounds like a soiree. It sounds like a
get-together. Doesn't it sound like fun? I mean, they're eating at only the finest restaurants when you work for the Southern Poverty Law Center. But, we brought you a story, I guess, going back about a year now, where they'd actually shipped a bunch of their money offshore, if you remember, like over to the Cayman Islands. They've been depositing all their money offshore. And we suggested, wonder why they're doing that. Might be something coming down the pike. Now, I don't know if it was the stuff that's just come down the pike. But, of course, if you're in that organization for 30, 40 years, you know what's going on. You know if you got trouble with the founder and he's sexually harassing the employees. It's like Bill Clinton. You send your daughter to be an intern at the Clinton Presidential Library in Little Rock, Arkansas. What do you think's going to happen? Seriously. I mean, is anybody surprised? Some people know about this, I'm sure. And, the organization may have been taking steps to try to insulate some of its assets from what I'm sure are going to be a ton of lawsuits coming now.
Where was this headquartered?
Well, Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay, and were there little divisions all over the country, or was it just there?
Well, it's primarily there, but they travel around to fundraise. So they travel around a good bit, but that's where their home office is. Now, with everything being electronic nowadays, I mean, mostly they had become an online ratings organization. And again, they were singling out groups and calling them hate groups. So, for example, they would take a religious group, maybe who didn't believe that homosexuality was okay, let's just say, and maybe the religious group even went so far to say, but we don't necessarily want any laws in place, because this is a true story. These happen quite a bit. And Southern Poverty Law Center was designating those kind of groups as hate groups. And there's been litigation over this because those really aren't hate groups. They have a strongly held religious opinion, and we've had Supreme Court rule on this, by the way, that you can have that as a religious opinion. Now, we're not supporting it, but, people are allowed to have their opinions in this country. That's what we are supporting. We're supporting the right of people to have their opinions, even where we disagree with them.
Sure.
You remember that old phrasing we used to say to each other sometimes, which would be, I may not agree with you, but I'll defend your right to the death to say it. Whatever it is that you want to say, because that's core to our country is the freedom of expression. Even
Do you
where
ever
we don't
see
agree.
that on Twitter?
No,
Hashtag.
Hashtag defend your
I
right
don't
to
agree.
the deaf.
I don't agree with you, but I defend your right. No, you don't see that.
Somehow I don't think that's coming on Twitter. So anyway, folks, if you're interested in SPLC and some of what they've done, go out there and just do a quick Google search on them. Particularly check out that article that was in the New Yorker, because it really gets into some of the details from the staffers, who the folks that go to work there are true believers. They're very liberal minded and all that. And frankly, they're quickly disenfranchised, according to the article, once they go to work there. And there's kind of a culture of, now we're going to tell you where you really came to work and give you a certain amount of information that's going to show you that, that this is basically just a big fundraising scam. And that's the actual language that they use, that it's a big fundraising scam. So for all the people out there that support the Southern Poverty Law Center, including some folks we've had on this show, one of whom I talked to this morning over in Melbourne, folks, you need to look into this and you need to figure out what exactly was going on with that group that you were supporting, because I suspect it is not what you thought it was.
Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And don't forget to exercise your brain at least once a week.